everybody. This is Mike Sandoval. Welcome to another episode of MUSE TV. We are here for a great documentary called The Friendliest Town. We have the director, Stephen Janis. We have, Taya Graham. And we have the subject of the documentary, Kelvin Sewell. Please
Hi.
tell me, how did this documentary all come about? And Stephen, how did you find out about this story and really wanted to tell the story?
Well, I'd known Kelvin. We had talked a lot, and he had helped me provide context when I was covering policing in Baltimore. And when he moved to Pocomoke, we had actually written a book after he retired and moved to Pocomoke about some of his experiences. So I was kind of keeping tabs and in touch with him. And the way I found about it was literally he called me one day and said, "I'm going to be fired." And it was really kind of a shock to me because I had thought everything was going great, and I knew crime was down. I knew people liked him, and so from that point on, the story just took off. But yeah, it was just really just a phone call from him saying, "Yeah, they're going to fire me," and we just couldn't really understand it.
Right, we were absolutely mystified.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that really threw me off because I was watching it and I was like, one, I wasn't shocked, like I was telling Kelvin before we came on air, but I was just like, what an interesting story and what, especially what's so pertinent to what's going on in today's world
right.
in the country.
Yeah.
So
Right.
how important was it to like make sure you got all the facts straight, make sure you had all your P's and Q's lined up because this is such a very interesting situation.
Yeah, I mean, part of the thing, as you know, because you review documentaries and films, is that a story can get out of hand, and you have to pick some central elements to make it effective. Otherwise, it can just sort of spiral out of control. And also, because people don't necessarily want to talk to the media, and because it's hard to get access to people like the council when they were all they kind of went into their defensive posture. You have to make sure that you spend enough time talking to as many people as possible to make sure that you have the proper context and you understand. Because as you know, if you watch the film, the council didn't want to talk about why they had done it, why they fired him. It was a big blockade, and they literally kicked us out of a council meeting. So if they kick you out of a council meeting, it makes it almost impossible to tell the story.
And we had to make sure that we had all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, because when you have allegations as serious as racism, when you have allegations as serious as prosecutorial misconduct, you better make sure you have all of your P's and Q's, because essentially we were saying, that the law enforcement departments, both the Worcester County Drug Task Force, the local the local Pocomoke City Police Department, as well as the mayor and city council, were in cahoots, essentially conspiring against someone, and it was based in racial bias and also police corruption. So if you're going to have those sorts of allegations out, you better make sure to have all of your bases covered.
Mhm.
And Kelvin,
Yes.
you were just trying to do your job. You were the chief of police of was it a
Pocomoke City.
yeah, sorry, I'm being tongue tied today. Pocomoke, Maryland. I mean, you came into the town, you wanted to change things, you wanted to really improvise new techniques, new ways of policing, which are great techniques. I love the ideas that you had and you had implemented. Why do you think it caused people to have so much fear towards you and the way you wanted to do your job?
Well, basically, moving from Baltimore City to Pocomoke City was a big change. Like Steven said before, I lived in a city where I worked in a city where there was hundreds of thousands of people being locked up every day, and I just wanted to change that. I wanted to try another direction, whereas working with the community and the police, we can get it done together. Because that's people say that and people try that, but it's never achieved. And my goal was to try to achieve that. And that was my goal from the beginning. Let's get with the community, get out there, get out your cars, walk foot patrol, speak to the community, get to know them, they get to know us. We bring them into the police station, bring the kids in, let them see what we're all about, let the community see what we're all about, and then we work together. And actually, Mike, we worked. They started looking at us as not only police but human beings, and we started communicating. If a crime was committed in Pocomoke City, my phone was ringing off the hook. I had to tell people sometimes, I know who the suspect is. Stop calling me. And that's how it was. It worked. And we worked together and we got it done. Because of that, crime went down a 30-year all-time low. And for 5 years I was there was 0 homicides. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I agree because I agree. Your technique of doing things is what really works. Getting the community involved, getting people not scared
Mhm.
to call the police and tell people when there's crimes or when they see something that's suspicious, and have that working relationship with the police. And I think it really helps make a community safer. But what do you think, especially to Stephen and everybody on the panel, what do you think is what caused it? Was it, I mean,
Well,
race did have to have something
yeah.
to do
Yeah.
with it, but
Well,
there had to have been more as well.
Well, I would just say that the Worcester County Drug Task
yeah.
Force was used to come running into Pocomoke City and essentially grabbing Black residents to get their stats, to get their numbers, and to get their arrests.
Yep.
So I think because Kelvin was changing the way the community was policed, and also said, no, you can't just come in and grab up the Black community like this and violate their rights. I want to do policing differently, and I don't think they like that,
No,
honestly.
I think that created a lot of tension, and there were a lot of people on the council who wanted Kelvin to do that kind of policing, and I don't think he wanted to. I mean, Kelvin, you can speak for yourself, but that was something that definitely seemed to be a problem.
Well, that was the wrong approach. Just coming to town, grabbing up African American people, taking them off to jail. Um, and a lot of it was just for foolishness, like loitering, just so they can find them standing on the corner, and petty drug charges. I was trying to change that, getting people to do better for themselves, getting jobs, going back to school, helping them fill their job applications out, helping them fill out college applications. People in that town wanted this. They wanted something, and they didn't know how to go about getting those things. So I helped them. Instead of hauling them off to jail. I showed them how to do. I showed them another way, how to live a better life, and they liked it, and they took to it, and
Yeah.
it worked.
And I think that shows, the business of the drug machine, the drug war
Yes.
machine. The Worcester County Drug Task Force, has some of the highest paid cops in the county. They
Mhm.
make huge amounts of overtime. It's big business, and if you can't go into town and run around and arrest people for petty drug charges, you don't have any business.
Yeah, I agree. And Kelvin, it's really sad what they did to you and how they tried to shame your name with a lot of the things
Oh
that
yeah,
they put towards
Yes.
against you, talking about uh, that you were dealing drugs and having sex with a certain individual in order to shame
it,
your
it,
name. And it's sad that they had to go that far to try and put
it,
down
it,
a
it,
good man.
it wasn't. It was selling, being a drug dealer, and trying to get me connected with several people and several women in the neighborhood in the area city, uh, trying to get me connected with them sexually, and none of it never panned out. But they tried. They even hired an investigator to come down and knock on doors to try to say that we were involved in sexual activity with other women. That didn't pan out. It got to the point where, as I can recall, my wife and I was at a Christmas party. I went home afterwards, and we went to bed. Woke up next morning, and found out that I was in a hotel for another woman, and she happened to be the finance director of Pocomoke City. I looked at my wife and said, "What? Wasn't I with you last night?" We stuff like that. So I had to go through things like that, and small town rumor mill. It
That's
happens.
old.
I wasn't concerned about that, but when they start trying to um, put serious allegations on me, that's when I got concerned. Because it affects you. It did. When you know it's not true, it affects you. And people can believe whatever they hear. And I think that's what was going on at the time.
Can I just add to
Yeah.
that this is part of like a very old school playbook of racism to essentially take a Black man that they want to destroy his character, impugn his reputation, and essentially hypersexualize him, paint him as a sexual predator or a hypersexual being. And so when, like you mentioned, the interview there with that where we spoke to Jerry Fitch, where she spoke about how police officers came to her while she was incarcerated and essentially said, if you are willing to say on the record that you had a sexual relationship with Kelvin Sewell, things are going to go a lot easier for you. We can make things get better for you. And I have to say that she was incredible that she said, no, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to destroy this man's reputation. I'm not going to lie for you, because I don't think there are very many people who would be sitting in prison who would be told, we'll let you out, we'll let you go, we'll clear things up for you, make it easy if you just tell this one lie. I think a lot of people would have told that lie.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I agree. And
I
it's the
commend
one
Jerry Fitch
thing.
for that
This is
because she
going.
didn't have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the one thing. This is going on all over the country, and not
Mm.
everybody's story is being told. But I'm happy that you told this story. How do you think this is going to help change the environment and help change things across this country?
Well, I think, one of the things this movie or this documentary reveals is the power of policing in the political, sort of economy and the political culture of a community. People have to understand that policing, as Kelvin showed, is not just about, driving down the street and arresting people. And the reason it's become such a hot topic in the sense, and it's talked about, is because it has a lot of power, and that power, I think, to a certain extent, has been abused. Um, it's been abused in many ways. And one of the things we cover as reporters is how much policing has expanded in rural communities. And
Right.
so, this documentary shows that when that power is abused, it creates a political problem, and it
Right.
creates a problem with the community, basically being voiceless. And I think that's why Kelvin being fired caused such a uprising amongst people of Pocomoke, because, like, policing has been used to enforce social boundaries and
Yes.
enforce inequality and enforce racial bias. And so I think that's the conversation we have to make. Does policing belong here? Why is policing so often at odds with the community it's supposed to serve?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the one thing. Like, going off the documentary a little bit, because these are
Yes.
incidents that's been happening around all the country. It just happened in Los Angeles, where a police officer killed a young individual in his
Hmm.
house. I'm not sure if he was Latino or Filipino, but that's the latest victim. How do you think we know there needs to be reform, but how do we go about it? And Kelvin, since you've been in the police force, and this is an issue that needs to be changed, how would you go about being able to reform this and changing things?
Well, excellent question. Michael, the country wants police reform. Everybody knows that. But if the country watched The Friendliest Town, you can see the police reform is all over that. If you want police reform, follow the documentary. It's not hard. It's right there. You can see how we reformed the whole town, and everybody came together to work, and crime went down dramatically. So the idea of police reform, I'm going to say, is The Friendliest Town.
Mm,
It worked. It worked for me. If it worked for me, it could work for anybody. Just have respect for the people, and they'll respect you back. I wanted people to see that the police wasn't like a robot type people. They were human beings. Get out and speak. Some of my officers didn't want to speak. I made them go out and speak to them. There were some of the people who said some of the people didn't want to speak back. Well, you get paid to speak. Keep speaking. You know, and it worked. It worked. People. I mean, I had people come to me and tell me that officer never spoke to me, chief. And they speak to me every time they see me, and I like that. And they start speaking back to him. So that generated throughout the entire community, and it worked. And people respected the police. The police respected the community. If something was to occur in that city, we would be the first to know through the community, and that's police reform.
yeah, awesome. Well, I think this is one of the most important documentaries, definitely, of this year. How can people watch it? How can people go be able to see this? 'Cause I think people need to see this.
Well, so right now it's on all the platforms like iTunes, Amazon, YouTube. You can rent it in all those places, and it's going to be in streaming in about 2 months. So you can also buy the DVD, and so it's everything, every basic transactional platform where you pay for it. It's pretty much available because we have a great distributor in Gravitas
Mhm.
distribution. So yeah, basically, just go to your Amazon account or go to your iTunes account, and no problem, you can get it.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for everyone for stopping with us and being able to talk with us about this
Okay.
important
Oh,
issue.
absolutely.
And Kelvin, yeah, I mean, keep up the good work, keep up the fight, keep up everything that you're doing, because a lot, like everything that you talk about when it comes to reforming and the way we should do things is pretty much on point. And especially for somebody like me who grew up in East LA, who saw a lot of it firsthand. I
Mhm.
think the way you want to take it is the way it should be done.
Mm.
And I commend you immensely for all the work that you've done. So thank you so much for serving.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. And we'll see you soon next time on another episode of Muse TV. My name is Mike Sandoval. See you next time.